Hey, this is Stu for Love Yoga Anatomy, and we know how important it is to work as yoga practitioners on strength as well as flexibility. So today I thought I'd show you a few lifts that you can work in seamlessly into your Ashtanga practice. I brought my wife because actually she's much better at doing these than I am, and also to show you that you don't have to be a fella to do these lifts. You can be a female and still have lots of power, lots of strength to weight ratio. Okay. So the first one that we're going to come across is from the Paschimottanasana, or the seated forward fold. And normally you would be in a folded forward position, taking hold of your big toes, and you would do your 5 breaths, and then after your 5 breaths you would lift up on an inhale, keeping hold of your big toes, and then you would exhale there, inhale, fold forwards, okay? But this time what you're going to do is, from that folded position, instead of keeping hold of your toes, you're going to keep hold of them for a while and then place your hands down and lift up on the same inhale. So she's coming up, she's placing her hands down, and she's lifting up, all on the same inhale. And then you would come down and then fold forward on an exhale into your next variation of the posture. You would hold that for 5 breaths, and then on your inhale, you're coming up. Continue all the way up, placing your hands down on the same inhale, lifting up, and then exhale, fold forwards, lower down, fold forwards, and take your last variation. Maybe it's right the way around, maybe it's the same thing again. And then after your 5 breaths, you would lift up. So inhaling, coming up, and then continue up. And this one you'd normally do jumping back. So you could lift up. You can either then do what Lorraine's doing, is she's going to place herself down, then she would cross her legs and jump back, yeah? If you're a little bit more comfortable in that, then what you can do is, from this position, you've come forward, you've lifted up, it's my last one, so I'm going to cross my legs, swing through, either touch my feet or go all the way through and jump back, okay? So, a little bit of technique. You want to be placing your hands down about halfway between your knees and your legs, okay? So that's going to give you a nice point for you to lift from, so you don't tilt one way or tilt the other way. You want to keep that connection between your thighs and your chest, so you lean forwards before you lift. So this is a position where you're contracting everything and trying to keep your chest to your legs. You will open up a bit as you lift up, but you don't want to try and lift up from a completely upright seated position, because it's going to be really difficult and you'll just sort of pivot, okay? So when she's just going to demonstrate the lift again, she lifts from this position and tries to keep closed as much as possible, okay? And you squeeze the legs together and try and breathe and then relax down. Brilliant, okay? So it's quite a powerful posture. So if you can't get off all the way off the floor, so let's say you go to do it and it's like, oh, and then something's coming up. That's great, yeah, that's a start. So just do that. You can also just lift your feet off the floor like this, or if you can lift your bum, you could pull your bum through a little bit, let it scoot and put it back down again. That causes a little bit more engagement here, okay? You could also use blocks, okay? You can put blocks down. Again, you put them obviously halfway, so when you put your hands down, they're going to be in the right place. Then you place your hands, squeeze everything together. On the inhale, lift up and lower down. Only problem with blocks that I see is it gives you a false sense of security, really. You don't have to engage your bandhas so much. You notice I didn't even need to lean forward too much. I could just stay here and just press myself up. So I think you should try and get rid of the blocks as soon as possible, or at least use the blocks for one, then take them out the way, and then still see if you can do it without the blocks. That'll keep giving you a reality check, okay? So after you've done those, then the next one we meet is after Trianga Mukaikapada Paschimottanasana. So Lorraine will demonstrate that for you. She's going to have one leg folded back, and from that position she would normally be folded forward. So she's in the posture, okay? You'd either be taking a grip like Lorraine's got, or you might be binding all the way around, or you might be sitting up. Doesn't matter, okay? You can still do these lifts, even if you're not folding forwards right into the depth of the posture. You can still work on your strength. So she would do her 5 breaths, and normally you would lift up keeping the grip, and then you would do the rest of your transition. But from here, you're going to lift up, continue all the way up, okay, placing your hands down. Again, find that pivot point, squeeze the thighs together, and then you're going to try and lift up from there. Great. And then all the way down. Good. I only showed Lorraine this a couple of days ago, so to see her lifting up is really great. Takes a lot of work because you've got different things going on between the two legs, okay? So in this leg, it's very much the straight leg. It's very much like the L-sit lift that we just done. But this leg is more like a Lalasana lift. So can you show us a Lalasana lift? So both legs would be folded back, and the main thing is you're trying to keep the heels towards the bum and the chest towards the legs. So she's going to close down a little bit. So she's going to bend the elbows, lean forwards. And then from there, she's going to squeeze everything together and lift up and try to get the heels off the floor and up to the bum. Good. And then she's going to rest down. So you can also practice that on its own to get the difference between the two, and then you try and combine those actions as you lift up, which is a little tricky, yeah? Particularly also, you've got heavy legs, which is one of the reasons I'm getting Lorraine to do it. Then it's really difficult to actually lift yourself off the floor. You need a lot of engagement, so a lot of core work, okay? So you'd obviously do that on both sides, and you could then include that into, depending on how proficient you are, you would lift up, you could then bring the front leg in and touch down, and away you go backwards, okay? So you could include that in your transition, okay? So after that one, then the next one we have the Marichyasanas. So what you want to think about is it's the same transition between A and C, and B and D. There's just a very slight variation because you just got to place yourself back in the right position for B and D, okay? So in A, you would be folded forward, okay? And you taking your bind and folding more forwards, coming towards the shin, okay? You do your 5 breaths there, and then when you come up and come out of the posture, which you would normally do, instead of coming out fully, you place your hands down either side of your hips, keep small, and then squeeze everything together and lift up. Great. And then lowering down, okay? From there again, if you watch the old videos of John Scott, fantastic at doing all this stuff, he can then fold that front leg in and do a completely the normal transition that you would do from the folded forward, the proper jump back. So work at whatever level you want. You can either lift up there, lower down, cross your legs, jump back, or lift up there, lower down, do another lift and a normal transition, and then gradually start to incorporate them, okay? So that was A. So then C, you would be in the twisted version. So Lorraine is going to twist towards me. You can either do just the simple twist, depending on where you are in your practice, or you can take a bind, okay? We've actually just had lunch, and we're trying to slip this in before here and going for a walk. So we're not going to go for the full binds. So this is what it would look like. From there, you would then need to come back to the front to then take your bind around the leg, okay? So again, look how low Lorraine's got with her shoulder, yeah? So you want to get nice and low and close your body up so that when you straighten your arms, you get a good clearance from the floor, okay? Great, and good. And then lower down. Brilliant. And again, you would transition out of that in whichever way you are doing, okay? So then we come on to B and D. So first of all, you would be in a half Padmasana with one leg or the other. We're just going to show you one side. And you would then be bringing that leg up and binding and folding forwards for your Marichyasanaa B. Okay. So you would do your 5 breaths, okay, and then afterwards, instead of coming up and coming out, you would come up, and again you would keep the bind with this arm on the leg, or keep the grip with it anyway, and then place your hands down, and you would lift, okay, and Lorraine's trying to grip with her arm on her leg as she lifts up and draw both of her feet up towards the center line. Good, and then you would lower down. And from there, you could just touch down and jump back, or From there, roll through, jump back, or come out of it, cross your legs, jump back, whatever you want to do, okay? All I would say is be careful that you've got a nice Padmanasana before you start then adding a lift to it, because otherwise it will put a bit of extra pressure on your ankle or your knee. So always make sure with these postures anyway that your Padmasana is healthy, yeah? So from there, we're thinking about D to show you the difference. So Lorraine would be twisted towards me. She's going to do, again, a simple bind. She's not going to take the full posture, just to give you the idea of the lift, really, which is what we're talking about. So from there, you would either have your arm all the way around, or as it is now, you would do your 5 breaths. When it comes to come out, you can't really lift from this position. Maybe there are some people that could do some sort of bonkers lift around this way. But normally, we would come out of this, and then we would repeat the same as we would do for B, okay? So you just come out, come round the front, take the bind, squeeze everything together, and then lift up, okay? You're only there for 1 breath. We're getting Lorraine to hold it a little bit longer. Good. And then you would actually lower down and do your normal transition, okay? So we're already up to the Marichyasanas in our little lifting sequence. So actually there's only one more that I want to show you today, and that is after Supta Konasana, okay? So you've done your Upavishta Konasana towards the front. Now the next posture is you roll over towards the back, and you take your legs behind you, okay? So from this position, first of all, this is a fantastic one to work on your activation, to actually slow yourself down and make sure you stop and try and roll up with straight legs. As soon as you feel that tipping point, you reach out of the low back and try and lift up and stop your momentum. So it needs to be rounded here. So with a little bit of momentum, you roll forwards, lift out of your low back, hold it. Good. And then you choose when to come down. So now I'm lowering down under control. Good. From that position, when we come to go up, normally we would cross our legs and jump back. We can add another little lift. So from there, you place your hands down between your legs. Let's bring them a little bit closer, because actually it's a little bit easier, and take the legs a little bit wider if you can, okay? And then from there, you lean forwards, and then you try and lift your legs up, okay? Good. So this is again one Lorraine's working on, so you can see it's tremendously difficult. So you could just keep your heels down and just see if you could lift your bum. So keep your heels down, love. Let's see if you can just lift your bum. Good. Okay, and do it something like that. Or you could keep your bum down and just see if you could lift both legs up. Yeah? Okay, so these are all good things to be working on the core, okay? If you can put it all together, then you can lift up, or you can try maybe putting one hand on top of the other. Lorraine hasn't tried this before, so this is all new for her. So you're going to play with one hand on top of the other. That's it. Lean forwards, and then from there, squeeze the core and see if you can lift up from that position. Yeah, okay, so it's a little bit wobbly. So let me show you what it would look like, hopefully. So we've rolled forwards. We've come into this position. I've done my posture. Now I'm going to place my hands down close to my hips, lean forward, and then squeeze, lift up. Okay, and then coming down, and then you do your normal transition. If you can get to the stage, notice I move my hands in a little bit. If you can get to the stage where you can have your hands on your normal width that you would do your chaturanga in, then it should be possible to press down, lift, then engage the core, lift the legs up, maybe bringing them into a bakasana, and then jump back, okay? So we've shown you stuff that isn't perfect, yeah? And we've done that on purpose, because it's not about being perfect in everything. It's about having a go, okay? So we've done this deliberately to give you a little bit of encouragement and say, look, you know, just start working on that strength, slide in these lifts, see if you feel the benefit in your body, and see if you feel the benefit in the other postures as you start to build that strength, build the core strength, okay? So I hope you enjoyed those, and if you want a little bit more detail about the individual lifts, then leave some comments and we'll do some other separate tutorials on each lift. But I really just wanted to say, look, have a go at these, see how you find them.